Okay, welcome everyone. Welcome to Identity in a Digital Space. So, this session is not just a discussion, it's a mirror. We are exploring how young Africans navigate and redefine their identity in online spaces. Our speakers are storytellers, they're creators, cultural theorists, and artists who carry lived experiences. But instead of us introducing them, we invite each and every one of them to introduce themselves in their own words and as they would like to be addressed. So first up, we have Mond Mutadi, and then we have Mike Skosana, and then we have Frank. Frank, can you please just tell us your surname? I don't want to butcher it. Yeah, just how do you pronounce your surname? Frank? Yes, Frank. You can just tell us your surname. How do you pronounce your surname?
It's Frank Ugoke. Can you hear me? Sorry, my network is kind of shaky. It's Frank Ugoke. Can you hear me? Hello?
I think we're having network problems. Okay, we're back. Yo, technology. We were at the introduction stage. Can Mondi Mutadi please introduce yourself? What you do, why you do what you do, and how you would like to be addressed.
Hello, everyone. My name is Raymond Mutadi, but they call me Mondi Mutadi. I am a genderqueer person. I use they and them pronouns, and I am an award-winning film writer, and I'm a filmmaker. I'm a TV and radio presenter. I am a cultural curator. I work in the space of media. So what I do is that I write queer films and I run my own product in my own media company called Mont Mutadi Media. And what we do is that we create queer content and we sell that to different brands and different production houses, and we work with different agencies and stuff like that. So we are a media company that particularly believes in reshaping the narrative and selling queer stories and ideologies. At the moment, I'm currently working on a new short film because I wrote a short film that won two international awards in 2019 called Feminine Lotus, which was about a transgender woman. Um, I'm currently working on a new short film at the moment, yeah, which is also queer centered. I am also preparing for a role because I'm an actor as well. I've acted in a film called Surviving Gaza here in South Africa on ETV,
Mm-hmm.
and I am currently preparing for a new role that I'm going to be shooting sometime in September. So yeah, I think the work that I've been doing is in queer spaces. I've started being a queer activist since I was in university, and I mobilized peer-to-peer queer education between students on campus, and that was that's what revolutionized me as a queer activist and as an entrepreneur in today's digital age. So yeah, I'm hoping that today's session will be one that will be fruitful and will be something that will be knowledgeable to me and informative, and I'll get to learn from every each and one of you and your lived experiences, and we'll get to in thoroughly kind of invigorate one another. So yeah, I'm looking forward to today.
Wow, that's great. Love your energy. Next up, we have Mike Skosana. Can you introduce yourself, sir?
Greetings, everyone. My name is Mike Skosana. I'm from South Africa. Um, I am a youth professional development advocate, um, also a director and founder of a company called Crystal Energy Trading and Projects, which basically focuses on teaching young people, kids, and obviously SMMEs and NGOs in technology. So basically, we have different programs that we do, ranging from your artificial intelligence. We introduce kids to robotics, just basics as well. I am also a chairperson of an organization called Viva Share Youth Center. So it's also a youth development organization. So that one focuses mostly on leadership and just bridging the gap between different stakeholders like government and private sector. So um, and then I am a Mandela Washington Fellow, alumni with the University of Nebraska Lincoln, which is based in the United States. Also did my alumni enrichment with Georgia State University, Andrew Young School of Policy Studies. I'm a Yale alumni as well. So graduated with UNISA School of Business and Leadership. Currently, I'm working with um, I'm actually part of United Nations SDG Goalkeepers with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, administered by Stellenbosch University. So, yeah, in a nutshell, I would say that's me. Thank you.
Wow, you people do a lot. Um, so our next
Thank
up
you.
will be Frank. Frank, Frank, also just tell us how we
Can you
pronounce
hear me?
your surname.
Okay, it's Frank is okay. It's Frank is okay. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. You're just a bit like your sound is a bit far, but we can hear you. Can the rest of us
Uh,
hear him?
what did you say? I didn't get that.
Okay, you can. Yes, Frank, we can hear you.
Can you all hear me? Can you all hear me? It's raining down here. It's really bad. Like, the network is, the rain is affecting my network. So, anyway.
Yeah, we can hear you, but you sound a bit far.
Yeah, I think that's it's raining down here. The network is really bad. But you can hear me now, right?
Yeah. Can you introduce yourself?
Okay, my name is Frank Idioke. I'm an actor. filmmaker, an actor, and also a human rights activist. So I basically doing projects like Battle on Bakersfield. Currently, I'm trying video and grind, also sharing and trying video, and that's basically it right now. Because can you help me because my network is really fluctuating down here, please. Just say hello if you can hear me.
We
Hello?
can hear you, but your sound is not coming out okay, Frank.
I'm really sorry about that. It's raining down here. My network goes off and on. So I don't know if you can even hear anything I'm saying.
Okay. All right. So thank you guys for the intros, and we continue. So, Mont, this question is for you. Thank you very much for agreeing to be speakers. We're really grateful to have you on board. And yeah, we want to learn a lot from what you guys do, why you do what you do, and what does it mean to identity in a digital space? What does it mean for you guys? So let me start with Mont. Mont, your performance in Surviving Gaza brought forward narratives rarely seen in mainstream African cinema. What role does storytelling play in reclaiming space for diverse African identities?
For diverse, I didn't get the ending part there.
Should I repeat the question?
Yes, yes, please.
Okay. I asked with your performance in Surviving Gaza, as you mentioned, that performance brought forward narratives that are rarely seen in mainstream African cinema. What role does storytelling play in reclaiming space for diverse African identities?
All right, thank you. Well, I think for me, it's so important. Surviving Gaza was really a crucial film, and it was instrumental in reshaping the narrative. And I think one thing that's so important is restoring voice and agencies. People want to speak for themselves, and they want to represent their experiences truthfully and define their identity for themselves. And so for me, like, it's very important to look at how important it is to reclaim our narratives in a world where we don't even give much space to African stories, and we don't even allow them to be able to be told on a global scale. And for me, if we look at storytelling, is not just expression, it's a form of healing, and sharing personal and ancestral stories can help people deal with different traumas and process trauma rather. And creativity offers them an outlet for them to grieve and to really look at transformation as well. I think what's so important is for us to exist in a world where we can be able to share stories that can be able to invigorate and educate and allow other people to grow and to learn from them. And when I was in Surviving Gaza, I can actually say the experience was really enthralling. I learned a lot from just the director himself, who was really passionate about African storytelling. And I think sometimes to work with such people who are really passionate about the same thing that you do, it allows you to really kind of develop as an artist and as a creative and as somebody working in the creative space, because we rely on one another. And I think when we see such stories being told, that can be an inspiration for a lot of people, and that can allow us to kind of deal with different issues in society and alleviate certain problems, because we're telling stories that matter and stories that are important and that are a truthful representation of people's lived experiences. So yeah, thank you.
That's so very true. And to add on to that, as Africans, we've always been good at storytelling. And that's how, we pass it down from generation to generation. And yeah, as we reflect on June 16, it's a story. It's a story. It's written in the history, and we still commemorate till this day the June 16, 1976 thingy. Youth Day. So we move on to Mike. Mike, your creative direction, it infuses a lot of African heritage with modern visual language. How do you ensure cultural integrity while still pushing authentic boundaries?
Thank you so much for that. Firstly, I must say that I really agree with what Mont is actually saying. So I think this is actually, it just needs us to be more open minded when we share our stories. Firstly, the no one, I think, is gonna give us the platform to tell our stories or share our stories. I think it is us that must just take the platform and create our own platform to tell our stories. So what normally I do is I value diversity, right? So I always try by all means to work with different people from different backgrounds. I avoid maybe working with South Africans only. So I'm a kind of a young person that actually doesn't mind to do collaborations with young people from your Mauritius, your Madagascar, the Kingdom of Eswatini, Americans, everyone. So I value diversity, but at the same time, I always want to make sure that I listen to other people's stories, then so that can also be able to get an opportunity to share my own story. So to me, actually, it hasn't been like that much of a problem, but I always make sure that when it comes to narrating my story as to where I come from, I do as much online articles as I can, different interviews and all that. But every time when I am given that opportunity to share my story, I always try to maintain my story and try to give my own perspective without actually trying to undermine anyone's story. Yeah. Thank
Yeah,
you.
that's very profound. That's so very profound. It's also the spirit of working together because I can learn from you and you can learn from me. And that's how we grow as a people. So yeah, thank you very much for that, Mike. We move on to Frank. And Frank, as a Nigerian actor navigating evolving film industries, how do you approach roles that carry cultural as well as political meaning? And what impact do you think this has on audiences both locally and globally? Frank, are you with us? I think we've lost Frank. Okay, let's just move on to Mond. Mond, your podcast, The Q Superhero, is a powerful archive of Q voices. In what ways has digital storytelling helped carve out safe spaces that traditional platforms ignored?
Well, if we look at traditional media, I think traditional media in itself had such a great representation, and it had a great run, and people were it kind of demonstrated how to spread information and stuff like that and knowledge. But I think we're moving into the much more digital age, and for me, if you look at podcasting, podcasts are really changing the landscape, and they're really reshaping how people view the world and how people can actually see themselves being represented back. So when I created the Queer Superhero Show, I wanted to really kind of give queer people a platform where they can be able to tell their own story and be in charge of their own narratives. And the way in which that I ask questions to the people that come onto the platform, it's questions that are inclusive of them and that acknowledge who they are and where they've been in life and the different things that they've gone through and how they can be able to relate to one another as queer people. And I think what it does, and most important thing, is it fosters community, where we're able to build an environment of community where people can get along together and be able to spread the message of love, but also recognizing the fact that like media is a powerful tool that can be able to transcend beyond borders, and it can allow stories to be shared and to be told, and in a way in which that we can grow one another, but it also can allow information to spread that can be informative. And especially looking at the African continent, where largely there's still people, it is still illegal to be a queer person in particular African countries. And for me,
Yeah.
it's I feel like my show, the Queer Superhero Show, is kind of driving towards change and creating narratives that can be able to send a message of positive light, that we're not alone and we can one day see queer liberation on the African continent. And I do hope that that's something that we can be able to achieve.
So, in your perspective, are we going there? Are we on the right path to getting there? Or it's still a fight that we have to continue fighting until, yeah, we win?
It's still a fight. Yeah, it really is still a fight. I think we need to use every tool that we can get. And if you look at how the digital age has come of age, and really kind of allowed us to use different tools like social media, where we can be able to propagate the queer agenda and be able to spread messages, I think we are headed there, but it's still a fight. We need to fight for it, and we need to fight for our rights. We need to fight for who we are and fight for what we live for in society.
Is there anything we as a people can contribute towards this fight that we need to win? Is there anything we can do
Yes, I
as
think people, yeah, I think people need to mobilize one another. I think we need to just find society, so like we need to build community. So if we can encourage, like if you really want to be able to assist in the movement or assist in where we're going, I think encourage the spirit of community and allow, start small where you are. You know, if
yeah.
there's a queer person in your environment, in your community, that's where we start mobilizing those different environments, creating safe spaces for them, creating safe languages where they can be able to communicate with one another and be able to communicate with people who are not necessarily queer. We this fight cannot happen without the fight of all of us. And I think even people who are not queer can contribute to us fighting this thing, so that we can be able to see the greater good and greater change that can come in society.
Yeah, that's so very true. And I personally believe that as a society, there are things we need to learn. And that's where you come in, Mont. You need to teach us how we address you, what words to use. Because honestly speaking, it's things are evolving, and we need to like be on par with what is out there, and not speak to people and then offend them, and then yeah. So you need to constantly make us learn the terms, the way you want us to address things. So I think that's where you come in a digital space, because that's where we are all at. And there are things that we need to unlearn as well, and other things we need to relearn. So that's where you come in, Mont. So Mike, your work in visual design, it often blends fashion, Pan-African identity. What inspires your creative process in telling modern African stories visually?
Um, so I one of the things that I realize is that for a very long time our stories has always been told on our behalf,
Yeah,
um,
true.
and oftentimes people will tell their own perspective about our story, which doesn't really make sense. And because at the end of the day, that's how we are defined as Africans, as young people as well. So, but a lot of, like, I think in the past it was a bit more difficult to get into the space of telling our own stories
Yeah.
and showing our craft. But I think internet, social media, like has actually introduced new opportunities for us to be able to tell our story. So in the olden days, we would depend on the main stream media. Like if something is not shown on your television, or the truth is actually what was shown on TV only. But now, as time goes, we are able now to also have a say, right? So news is no longer the news that you see on TV or you hear on radio only. So we now have looked at it as an opportunity to say, you know what, we can now tell our own story, and also use different um, methodologies like art, for example, to just use art and tell different stories, because we're not all going to be speaking, but some people speak better when it comes to visual. So if we constantly searching for that voice from young people, and we need to be creative as well. We need to say, if Mike can speak, it's fine, but if Mond cannot speak, but Mond is a brilliant artist, we say, how can we hear your voice, right? We try to create those opportunities where one can actually create something that will also allow them to um, share their voice, which is in a way being inclusive, because we also need to realize that there are people who are actually cannot talk, but they are brilliant artists as well. So we are just trying to find ways to be inclusive, to use art as well. And actually, we've been promoting art, and even with students, and giving them different opportunities. I mean, I work also with Arts and Culture Trust as the ambassador to actually assist kids also to pursue this thing called art, because it actually can give them a voice as well.
That's so very true. And I like the fact that you also mentioned that our stories were told on our behalf, and a lot of things were omitted. And when you get to hear the original of the story that was being told, that you've been watching while growing up, you're like, but it was not written in the way, or it was not portrayed in the true reality that it is. So, which brings me to my next message, next question: authenticity in what we are doing. How important is that? Can I start with you, Mont?
Yes. Authenticity is really something that is great. I think we need to champion it. We need to really encourage a lot of people to push for authentic representation. We need to just allow people to navigate this different spaces with their with who they really are as their authentic self. Because if you walk into a space that where you are not welcomed, or you are not treated fairly or treated accordingly based off who you are, you need we need people to be able to create those environments where people can be able to be safe, so that they can be able to be their authentic self. So authenticity drives creativity, it pushes narrative, it allows, it propagates ideas, and it allows people to be able to see different ways and different forms in which we can be able to learn from one another. And I think when we are authentic, we we allow ourselves to be able to share knowledge and to be able to encourage different perspectives of different lives, and allow people to learn from one another. So I really definitely believe that, like, we must push for authenticity and allow it to be able to exist, especially in a digital age where people are constantly sharing themselves, and they're always giving different platforms, and expressing themselves differently on multiple platforms. And I think when we find authentic voices online or digitally, we must give those people a chance. We must encourage those people. We must support those people, buy their products, support them, encourage them, because they are authentically who they are.
That's so very true. And what's your take, Mike? What's your take on authenticity in storytelling, in showcasing what we are as Africans, as the youth? What's your
Yes.
take on that?
My take is I think we really need to start believing that um, our story is enough. It's good enough to be out there, to be told out there to the world. Um, I think no one can tell our stories better than us. We know our story. We lived those experiences. I think it is us that must lead the way, and we must just be ourselves, you know. So, and authenticity is the main key, because if you're not authentic now, you're gonna be trying to be someone else that
Copy.
you actually don't know. You might have a perspective about someone, but you don't know that person. So it's better to talk about, or to tell the story about someone that you know, which is ourselves. So I think it is crucial that we be authentic. And if you look at a lot of the countries, if you look at countries like your China, they always gonna tell their story. They're always gonna show what they believe
Their way.
in, and that yes,
Yeah.
and they're not apologetic about it. So we need to start
Yeah.
not being apologetic. Just being an African is cool enough, you know. So let's be there. Let's just tell our story. Let's be out there, and let us not try to be someone else. Yeah.
Moving on to digital platforms, your TikToks, your whatever, your online platforms, your social medias. Um, that's what we eat, breathe, live, sleep, whatever. That's where jobs are created. And how do you guys use social media to push the narratives? Mont?
All right. I social media has changed my life, and I think I've grown up in social media as a young person. From when it was first introduced, I was still in high school at the time, and I was still in school trying to navigate what Facebook is, or what Twitter is, or what now we have TikTok. But like using those tools and using social media to propagate the agenda and reclaiming your narrative, it's so important because you get into those platforms, you present yourself, and you decide what narrative you're going to spin with or go with today or tomorrow. And for me, once you find your message and once you find your voice, there's nothing that can stand in your way, and there's nothing that can stop you from being able to push certain messages. For instance, I built the Queer Superhero brand. So the Queer Superhero show is a brand on its own, and the Queer Superhero brand, what it does is that it preaches everything that is queer. It pushes the narrative that being queer is African, and it wants people to understand that we're here to stay. We're not going anywhere, and we've always been here. And so using social media to propagate that message has been something that has been so instrumental, and I think we need more platforms like mine where you can be able to articulate yourself, share narratives, and be able to spread the agenda. And I think we can use social media in a really great way to start and change the world, because one step at a time, it has its pros and cons. There's certain things that are negative about it,
Yeah.
but the most positive thing that we can focus on is the fact that you can actually impact people's lives, build communities, connect with other people from different parts of the continent. And for me, that is something that is instrumental. And I appreciate social media for being able to exist and to be able to do the things that it can do.
Yeah, yeah. Mike, social media platforms. Yeah, we use it to express ourselves, to identify ourselves, to see ourselves, to entertain ourselves. So, what does social media how does it have an impact on identity?
Um, Thank you. I honestly think that's actually one of the most crucial tools. I always look at social media as both a platform and tools. If you want to, firstly, if you want to build online presence, social media is the key for
Let's
you to
go. Yeah,
actually get your work out there, and you actually decide how you want to be seen. So I've seen a lot of young people, most of the time they would put themselves out there, but I can tell that a lot of them still don't understand that actually this is them actually saying to the rest of the world that, hey, this
this is
is this
why.
is how I want to be perceived, you know. So it is a tool. It has a lot of opportunities, and I think if you dive deep into it, it's even um, divided into different categories, right? You will have, for example, social medias like your LinkedIn, where it will give you that opportunity to say professional, how do you want to look? You will have even your Facebook and everything. But if really you take time and try to study this social media thing, you will realize that actually that's one of the biggest tools we have as young people, and that we can use without restriction. Obviously, there are those restrictions there and there, but it's one of the major tools that I think we can use. If you understand also its analytics, right? You can actually set up your social media in such a way that um, as time goes by, it is the one that feeds you information, that feeds you opportunities. A lot of opportunities that actually I got and I was exposed to, I got them through social media. Like there's things that I studied on social media. So I think it's that important. And I think people must just understand is that if you want to look good online, social media, you need to really take it seriously and be intentional. If there are things that, I always say this, if there are things that are on your social media and those things you wouldn't be proud to show in an interview,
10 years
please
time or
get rid
what?
of them. Please get rid of them, you know? Put something that you would like us to, when we say Mike, we should look at it and be like, okay, this is Mike, basically.
I want to be Mike. I want to do what Mike is doing in a positive way, though. In a positive way. Yeah. So I agree with both of you guys, and my wish is that as much as we play around with social media, we should also educate around the dangers of, like you're saying, Mike, that what I do today, and then the next thing I want to be a lawyer, and I look back at my social media videos or my TikTok videos, and it does not, it's not, yeah, make sure that I'm going to be professionally acknowledged for whatever it is spaces that I want to enter in. So, how important is it to also use social media, online platforms, digital platforms, to also educate the youth or spread positive messages to them? How important is it, Mont?
Sorry, ask the question again, please.
My
How
question is,
important is
we use
yes.
how important is it to also use social media for the positives? As we've said, that there's also negatives to it, and people do use social media for negative content or whatever. So, why is it important for us as people who use social media for positivity? How important is it for us to spread the education around the use of social media? The good use for social media to build brands, yeah, to educate and all of that. How important is it?
It's really important because you can get to grow yourself and you can see, you can get to become part of the digital market, and you can be somebody that's present in that sphere where you can now fit into a part of the economy where you're growing the digital economy. And when you look at how brands are built, you start off by understanding that like it starts from a minute idea that somebody has, or to say I'm going to say I'm going to put this on my TikTok, or I'm going to put this on my Twitter, or I'm going to put this on my Instagram. Everything is curated, and I think the positive ideologies that one can push about social media is the more we need more of those kind of positive perspectives, because social media is a powerful
Yeah,
tool, and it can change and
it
it can
is.
impact people's lives, and it can really grow ideas. And I've always loved how, I've always noticed how brands can grow, how somebody can just start from from just presenting on the streets to then presenting on the red carpet, and all because of social media, or start like there's this one guy on TikTok who started a TikTok that mimics top billing, and now everybody is called TikTok billing and everybody loves it. And I thought to myself, wow, that's just an idea that somebody thought, I'm not going to let go of this idea, and I'm going to take this idea that once died and I'm going to represent it on TikTok and I'm going to help it grow. I love ideas like that. I think positive messages can incite ideas that can be able to be impactful.
Innovation.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So, mm,
innovation. Okay, Mike, how can we educate our youth on the use of social media?
Um, I think, firstly, um, as much as we can try, right? But I think young people also must want to learn the social media
Yeah.
thing, because it's right here in front of us, you know. Um, but I think it's important to what we are doing. For example, it's actually one of those, you know. every now and then we need to constantly have these conversations and actually talk about social media and conscientize young people that, hey, guys, this is a tool. And if you want to see how serious it is, look at everyone that you think is serious. Look at governments, different marketing companies. They are all also all on social media. So that should tell you
Yeah,
something, that actually, if everyone is here, if presidents are on social media and every now and then they would discuss serious issues, it means this is a serious tool. But
platform.
also,
Yeah,
one of the things that I think I just want to state is that also seen a lot of young people who would have a lot of followers, right? And then they are able to get content or information out there in social media. But when you look closer, it's not the kind of content that is benefiting them. So you'll have a lot of
yeah,
followers, which means you have a certain skill of using social media, of being able to engage audience, but you're not using it to market products. And I'll be fascinated about it. I'll be like, why aren't we then marketing different companies and say, here is Mike, I have 50,000 followers, instead of
make money.
doing
Yeah,
cyberbullying around it, instead of destroying it, why not use it for something positive? You don't even have to
positive.
imagine if that is your work. You don't have to go to work. You just do what you enjoy, because
Online, you're always online.
online, you see, and then you might, in exchange, you get benefits from that. So I think
You
we
get
really
paid
need to,
for just being
you
online.
you get paid, and just for doing something that you like. But then you would see a lot of young people taking that ability, that skill, and using it to actually abuse people, because whether it's online or offline, abuse is abuse. It is still abuse. So you'll find
True.
them saying a lot of nonsense about people's beliefs,
Negative.
uh, all this negative stuff. But I'm like, you could be using that as something positive. As you
To
go through their
empower. Yeah,
timeline, then you realize this person would be actually talking about how they don't have opportunities. I'm like, but here is an opportunity. You are different. You have this skill that a lot of companies pay for because they don't have. You can use this and actually turn it into a career. So I think we need to constantly have these conversations with different people from different countries, and try as much as we can to conscientize our young people to say this is a tool that we can actually use for positive, not just negative stuff.
yeah, not negative. And that's how we'll get there. We'll get there as a nation,
Definitely.
or as people, that we need to use social media very wisely and to make a difference, to make a positive impact, as well as to create livelihoods. That's what we should be focusing on when we go on social media. Yes, there's entertainment. Your TikToks, yeah, they are entertaining. Your dance challenges, yeah, and it keeps us going. One thing is in, next thing we are changing to Zenzele. Yeah, who busy? It's busy. What TikTok? So yeah, Mike, your work in visual design often blends fashion and Pan African identity. What inspires your creative process in telling our modern African stories visually?
Um, so firstly, I must say this. I work with this incredible team of young people who are actually different, and that's what I like about them. They are very diverse. So part of them, like you have artists, right? So we were actually, I still remember there was a time where we actually sat down, we were looking at ways where we can be inclusive and actually give different platforms specifically to artists and people who are and modeling and actors, right? So we're like, how can we um, use these guys in a positive way to actually give them a platform to assist in sharing their stories. So we even came up with a program called Isiba Art Project. So basically, We went to different makeup artists because even a makeup artist can tell a brilliant story. So we went to different makeup artists, photographers, models, actors, visual artists, poets, and all that. So we're like, guys, we have a lot of issues that are happening in our communities. So we want you to tell a story. We want you to advocate. We want you to send different messages, positive messages out there to young people. But we don't want you to send those messages like, for example, how Mike would send the message. Um, Without just saying. So we were able to come up with different stories using photography, using different portraits, and we were actually intentional about those. Some of that work, we even send them to different countries and all that. But basically, we said to someone who's a visual artist, say, listen, we want you to advocate about gender-based violence, for example, but don't say a word. Use what you are gifted at, use your
Yeah.
visuals. And they were able to do that. We said, a photographer, listen, we know you like taking pictures, and we know you are one of the good photographers that we have. So we're not going to make you talk, right? We want you to use what you are good at. So, which is photography. So we created different pictures that tell stories. And in those pictures, we didn't just take pictures of things. We went to models, for example. We said, you guys love this thing. So we want you to become models and actors at the same time, but we want you to tell a story without having to talk.
That is
So
cool. Yeah.
that's basically how we've been creative and innovative about this storytelling online. And then we tried by all means to not be an American or a Chinese or whatever. We said we want to be ourselves,
Yeah.
but tell our stories in a way
Authentic.
that, yes, authentic, in a way that a young person somewhere in rural areas, when they see these pictures, when
And
they see these
relate.
campaigns, they can
Yeah.
relate. And for the fact that it's young people, so it's easier now to get young people engaged into such conversations, because also concentration span. Young people sometimes they might not want to look at one thing for a very long time. But if you become creative enough and actually tap into what they are interested in, so that's what basically we've been doing. But it's it's the kind of work that I do when I work with different teams. So we have teams that we work specifically when we do things in the digital space, but when it's coming to performing arts, again, I have another team that actually focuses on that, and then we always try to find a way to actually connect the two teams, and that's basically what's been inspiring us, because I know that if I have one team that has to do with the tech space or the digital space, they're going to focus only on digital, but they might forget to be inclusive. Then
Yeah.
the other ones are going to call us into order and say, listen, but now you are leaving this voice behind. So basically, that's how we've been operating, and it's been great actually. That work is it's been out there and open a lot of opportunities.
Opening up the industry. Mont, opening up the industry. Can you relate?
Yes, I can relate. I can relate. I think
Yeah,
opening up
we
the
love that. We opening up the industry.
yeah, the industry needs to open up.
Yeah, no, Mike is doing exactly that. Mike is opening up because his work is collaborative. Like he's collaborating, different people, coming together, and beautiful things are happening. So Mont, let's go back to your performance in Surviving Gaza. Yeah, Surviving Gaza. So it resonates across platforms, and it brought forward complex Q narratives in African cinema. How does your acting contribute to referring how Q youth are seen and heard in mainstream?
So in Surviving Gaza, I was playing a cis heterosexual criminal, and that was That on its
Hectic.
own is the is the opposite of me. And is this gangster person who wants to kill people, who wants to become part of a gang, and he's going navigating through that. And when I look at myself, I'm like, I'm totally different from that character. So acting really does play a huge role in how queer people are being viewed as well. Because as a queer person and as a gender queer identifying person, that character is totally different from me and anything that I've ever been represented at. So I think if you just put like acting into the mixture, I think you just allow yourself to perform. So, and I often get asked the question as to how do I feel being able to play cishet straight characters. And I say to people that, like, as an actor, I'm an artist first. I am an artist and I'm a
Before.
performer. I'm an artist first and I'm a performer, and I know how to portray different characters. And if I were to play a gay character, I'd play a gay character. If I were to play a cishet character, a cishet heterosexual man character, I'll play that character because for me it's about the artistry and being able to embody the characters that are given to you. And but one thing I cry
Mhm.
about, I just think we need more representation in the digital age and into in the media industry, because we don't have enough of that. We don't have enough people telling our stories. We don't have enough people being able to share. We don't even have enough actors being given the space to be able to share their talent and to share their knowledge and things that they know, because immediately sometimes gay actors are blacklisted and they kept out of the industry and stuff like that. And I go back to the saying of saying that we need to open up the industry. We need more actors. We need more queer actors that can be able to play different variety of roles, regardless of how they identify and how they represent themselves. I think it's so important for us to give those people those acting roles that are available, and I think we need more of those things. And I think for me, being in Surviving Gaza has really shaped how I look at African narratives and how I observe them as an actor. Mm.
Yeah, that's very true. That's very true. Changing narratives. Yeah, I did watch Surviving Gaza, and I felt like I was watching Yizo Yizo. That's all I'm going to say. It was hectic. It was hectic, but it was a good story. It was a good story, and yeah, you don't see that more often in our storytelling and what we watch on TV. It's like we ashamed of showcasing what the real South Africa. We'd rather go to Sentin and yeah, showcase Sentin. This is South Africa, but when the real South Africa, Kikokasi, it's in the townships, it's the lifestyle, it's yeah, all of that. But we don't really get
Yes,
to see that. Yeah, we always
yes,
get to see the glamour. And Surviving Gaza was like showing us, okay, this is in South Africa, this is Mzansi. And if it makes you uncomfortable, that means you're also uncomfortable with the realities or your identity as, as South African or as a person living in a township. Or so yeah, we need more films like that. And yeah, it was a good film. So Mike, Mike, yeah. You've also worked on the Pan African identity and all. What does it mean to be young, African, and futuristic? What does it mean to you?
Um, to me, I would honestly say it actually means that we need to be, as young people, I think we need to always think think fast, try to always anticipate where the future is going, how the future is going to be like, and we need to embrace change. I always say to young people that change is inevitable, whether you like it or not. um, when it's time for change, change is just going to happen. So if you understand that, and then you find out that when change is happening, where are we as Africans? How do I better
Yeah.
position myself? So, and I can tell you this: a lot of people a lot of countries are actually coming into Africa because they understand that we are a market. It's just that a lot of the times we don't see ourselves like that as a market. You know,
Yeah.
we are a market. I think
We're
our
sitting on a
work
gold
is,
mine.
yes, our work is incredible. You know, we are beyond the minerals. You know, we there are countries that don't have, for example, young people. They don't have the same amount of young people as we have in Africa. So we are a very young continent, and all these innovations that are coming into the space, it's us that we must drive. You know, we must drive them. We must
Yeah, true.
invent these things that we believe they're gonna be of assistance to us, because whether we like it or not, the leadership of Africa at some point, we are actually the next leadership of the continent. You know,
The
so it
future,
can be
yeah,
parliament,
true.
it can be all these big companies, these big industries. At the end of the day, in the next coming few years, in fact, it's already been happening. I've seen a lot of young people stepping in and getting into these different platforms. It's us that are in charge for the future of this country. But we also need to make sure that the generations that are coming after us don't come in and then they have the same struggle as we did. You know, the generation that came before us as Africans, they had their own struggles, and they were able to actually do their own contribution. We need to find our purpose, we need to find our own voice, and we need to start building things as well, so that the coming generation must find us on a different level. And we must not be selfish about it. If I know something, I must
Yeah,
share, you know, and make sure that the child that is coming after me must not face the same challenges while I face the same
thanks. Yeah,
challenges, you know. So it's that understanding. And I always every now and then look at the Asian continent. Most of them, that's basically what they do. If they start a business, they make sure that that business outlive them, so that the coming generation can actually benefit from that, and then they're no longer going to start on point A, they must start on
yeah.
point B. You know, so we need to
Generational
be
wealth. Yeah,
generational wealth. We need to do that, and we need to understand what is our wealth. You know, so it's not gonna be always like in other countries. Our wealth is different. Our wealth can be knowledge, it can be skills, you know. Just the stories, the culture alone, it's different. No one can do beadwork like the way we do in Africa. You know, without a machine, we can actually do better than these machines. But also we need to understand where is the world going in terms of technology. How do we better position ourselves? What role does artificial intelligence play? You know, where are we in that? And what do we prioritize in terms of getting gadgets? How do we make sure that we pursue different governments to subsidize access to data? You know, why is it important to us?
yeah.
Even if I'm Mike in Sandton or in Pretoria, in Cape Town, if I'm okay, but I must also ask myself, what is um does a child in Pumalanga, in Limpopo, out there in rural areas, do they have access to
In
this?
the rural.
Can they watch Mon's work? Are they able to access it? If not, what do I do? You know, just that
Yeah,
little contribution that I put
solutions.
in. Yes, it's huge. You don't have to change the whole world. Just that space that you are
Yeah,
in, change that. And if we all do that collectively, I'm telling you, we can change this continent. We can improve it. Our any contribution is enough, you know. But if you can
yeah,
go to an extent, if you can do these sessions, if you can do webinars, your contribution is more than enough. Get in there, get into that space. It's not always about how much you can make. It's just that
mm,
contribution. Avail yourself, and the network is it's endless. You can find yourself in spaces that you never thought you could be. You know. So let's just go in there, and the rest shall follow. You know.
yeah. And
Yes,
collaborate, collaborate with different
definitely,
people so we can learn as well. because yeah, learning, yeah, it does not end in grade 12 or university or wherever. It's also life experiences with different people.
Yes,
Mont, to
and
be young, African, and futuristic. What does it mean to you?
To be young, African, and futuristic. Oh my gosh. I think I think I think it means a lot of things to me. I think it means revolution. It means new age, new dawn, empowerment, queer freedom, queer liberation. I think in a digital age is just to be free of any kind of anything holding you back, but allowing yourself to really kind of get to exist as a person and have the freedom to express yourself as you truly believe and as you truly love yourself in society. So I definitely think to be young and futuristic is it's that world. I think what gets me excited is that I'm currently in the moment of creating a sci-fi show, a sci-fi TV show, and I've been doing a lot of research on sci-fi and African in the African ideology and the African perspective and how do we go about creating science fiction movies for Africa and what do they look like and stuff like that. So I've been enjoying just getting to create content in that manner and also understanding that like we can be the shapeshifters of tomorrow. We can be the people that can come up with ideologies and philosophies that can be able to impact the world and change how people think, all because you have an idea that can change the world. And I just think in a futuristic world, as a young person existing, use the tools and just like Mike said, use the tools to be able to get yourself to where you need to get to. And I think working with other people and creating environments where you can be able to grow and feed into the system and feed into the ideology of being able to develop in a digital age. It's very fast paced, it's forever growing, it's forever evolving. And I think we just need to create environments where we can be able to share knowledge, exchange ideas, be able to create content that can be able to be informative, knowledgeable. And for me it's just allowing yourself as an artist, especially for me, it's an exciting thing as an artist to know that like we're living in a digital age and how you can share your content, how you can tell stories that matter.
Where everything is possible.
Yeah, and you can really tell stories that matter and get to grow yourself and get to understand where does it all come from and how do we get to grow it and how do we transform those ideologies and how do we transform society by being able to share knowledge and share ideas. And I think futurism is here, and we need to be able to adapt and we need to be able to evolve with it as it goes.
Yeah, that's so very true. I like the word evolve because that's what digital means. It means that we're moving from one stage to the next and in a fast-paced world, like we don't have time to breathe. You know, Siningning, we are watching the queue by Mondi, and then next thing is another thing. Like we are forever evolving. So it's digital, has its pros and cons. But yeah, we're going to utilize it. Any closing statements from you guys? I think there's questions, but I'm not seeing any. Can you guys see any questions from your side?
no, not on my side. I'm
No,
not
I'm not
seeing
seeing
any.
any questions.
Yeah, I'm not sure how Ndi is going
But
to.
I think on the
Yeah,
screen
but
there is one.
yeah, how have online spaces helped or harmed your expression of identity as a young African? Can you guys, Mont? I
All
think you
right.
would be perfect for this.
Well, I think for me, it has helped me a lot with the expression of my identity. It has allowed me to express myself fully as a queer person. It hasn't harmed me in any way. I think I've been very cautious and very aware of how I use social media. and I think I've had my fair share of like learning the ins and outs of it, and I've had negative comments and stuff like that happen, but it has not necessarily harmed me in any way. It has really helped me be able to share narratives and connect with other Africans who are queer as well, just to get to see how their lived experience are in their own countries and different things like that. I get excited by being able to connect with other queer Africans. I think it's so important for me. So, and I think because what it has really done, it has allowed the like for us to build digital online communities, and these digital online
Mm-hmm.
communities have grown society, and have allowed to have created a safe space for people who they're not necessarily safe to be queer in those countries, so they've allowed themselves to create communities online that have been safe, that have been allowed them to really push the queer narrative. And it's
Wow.
always good to create
Yeah.
communities for yourself online, and to have those spaces, and to create safe spaces for yourself, because it's not safe where you live, or where it is to be queer. So it has really truly has helped me kind of build those online communities that are safe, and have allowed me to grow myself and learn from them and learn from one another.
Yeah, I think it also goes back to what we were discussing when we were discussing about using social media platforms or digital platforms to educate, yeah, and also spread the message. So yeah, is there any other questions? I'm not seeing any other question. It's just this one. Okay, here. What does digital freedom mean to you in the context of culture and tradition? Mike, I think this one is for you.
Yes. Um, Digital freedom actually is it is everything, and very, very crucial. Um, but I think, like, what I've observed in the past few years is that still I think we people still has misconception about the African culture and traditions. I think there's still a lot of work to be done, because um, for example, if you take a look at African attires, you know, so a lot of people that don't understand African attires would quickly jump into, for example, saying it's nudity and all that. Like, it's, and when I look at it, I think it's them not understanding. So a lot of people that are in charge of these platforms, or these different social medias and stuff, are still, they I think they need to be still educated about the African perspective, African cultures and traditions. But I think it's a work in the
Mhm.
progress, you know. So we still need to
Yeah.
try by all means to persuade them, and really try to get ourselves out there so that they can understand how do we see ourselves, but also the challenges. And as long as we are not part of the people that are creating these different platforms, as long as we're not innovating different platforms, different tools and stuff, people will always look at us and have their own perspective, and they would always dictate in one way or the other, to say this is how you should look like, this is how you are not supposed to look like. So I think it shows those discrepancies in both sides, that we also need to be part of those people who are inventing. We still need to be part of those people who are creating stuff, but also in terms of advocacy and lobbying, we also need to be there. We need to lobby the world, and just um, put ourselves out there, so that we can now achieve this culture and tradition, or this freedom that we want in the digital space. Because I can assure you, I've seen a lot of artists actually complaining that I'm wearing my Ndebele attire, I'm wearing my Tswana attire, but the internet is saying this is inappropriate, you know. But I know for a fact that in my culture, this is how we supposed to wear, and this is, you know. But we must just be there. Those that I can, let's get into the space and try to actually push more African identity.
Yeah, that's so true. Another question is, this is Gwami from Kumasi. How do we make sure that African languages survive and thrive online, not just English? Content creator. Want?
Yes. Well, I mean, how do we make the African languages survive and thrive online? That's very interesting. I think it's very hard because um the algorithms are very Western centric, and it's kind of very difficult to be able to share in your own languages where the algorithms don't even cater to you, and they're not even created to be able to cater to you at the same time. And I think it's kind of hard to preserve African languages when the algorithms are not catered to Africans and they're not even doing that. I wish we had ways in which somebody who worked at these social media platforms kind of hired black people, black African people, so that the algorithms can be better and so that they can be catered to African people so that we can preserve our languages. They're just not hiring, especially with AI coming into the space. Even the people that are developing these AI tools, they're not developing algorithms that are catering to African people. Everything is very Western centric, and we need more people to be in those spaces so that we can be able to preserve our languages and so that they can be able to survive, and not just English. So it's a bit unfortunate that these things are created in English and they're done in English. But I love it when some people on social media try to communicate in their own languages or tweet in their own languages or post in their own languages. I think that's the way we can start initiating that. It's a bit unfortunate that the algorithms don't work in our favor.
Yeah, but I also think that we should also what's the word, like force this thing that we are Africans, this is who we are, and this is the languages that we speak, and use subtitles if you don't understand, because this is our story and it's best told. I don't know if you guys know, if you tell somebody a story in your own language, it's different when you translate it to English. It doesn't have that thing. Don't know if you
Yes,
guys
yes, it
get
Yes,
me.
doesn't. Yeah, it
Yeah,
doesn't.
definitely.
it's different. It's always, maybe it's funny in your own language, but when a white person comes and say, like, what are you laughing at? And then you're trying to explain, and then it's not the same. So I think we should also try harder to tell our stories in our language, just to preserve that African culture. Yeah, moving forward, that's what some of the things that we need to consider. Mond, what language? How many languages do you speak?
I speak five.
Okay, we're
I speak five.
listening.
Huh?
We're listening. You
Oh yes,
speak.
I speak. I think I speak English. I speak Sotho. I speak Tswana. I speak Pedi, and I speak Afrikaans, which is kind of, and I speak English. So
You mentioned English twice. You see, you're not changing the narrative. You're not changing the
okay.
narratives. English twice. I coin. I know. Um,
No, I
Mont,
speak five. So
you should do
yes,
content in one African language, Batung.
that's
One South African
true.
language, Kela.
That's true.
Yeah.
I haven't thought of that. I haven't thought of that. I think I should start. I think I should start incorporating that into my content. That would really be great. I think it would grow my audience and it would allow me to connect with my people.
And it's also part of changing the narrative. Okay.
Yes.
So, African stories are not best told in English. I'm telling you, they're not best told in English. How? Use our African language, Mont.
We will. I will. I will. I promise.
So this one okay, in African language. I don't know about that Baba lip sense. Like I feel that lip syncing, and yeah, it's not make sure when those Bollywood actors are doing it in isiZulu. Um, so another one, Amina from the S Salam. Do you think there's a responsibility for African creators to speak on social issues, or is personal expression enough in the face of injustice? Can you take it, Mike?
Um, I think I'm not sure if it's a kind of a yes or no answer, but I think if really we all want to um, promote speaking of African languages, for example, I think we all need to take part, you know? So, uh, but we also need to teach one another because let's be honest, guys, there's a lot of African languages and a lot of
Mm-hmm.
them have similarities, but there are a lot, you know? So, but we need to be intentional about learning them. You know, I was speaking to young people from Zambia. There are a lot of languages that are similar to South African languages, but they have a lot of language. You might think we have a lot of languages. Trust me, we don't. Zambia has a lot of languages. So, and Zimbabwe as well. But also, what I've realized that still there's a lot of similarities. So I wouldn't say it must be African creators maybe who must actually or who must have full responsibility of doing that. So they can do that. But what I think meeting each other for halfway would be if Mont creates a content in English, right? If I'm coming with my language and stuff, Mont should in a way try to accommodate me and try to understand me in my own language. Or also when we are discussing, we should be willing to go to an extent of even tapping or using our own indigenous language. It shouldn't be a taboo to say, why are you using Debele now, or why are you using Zulu or Setswana?
Yeah,
You know? So we must not leave it to
yeah,
one side. It's like leaving languages to school teachers. You know? They can't teach all the languages. So they're going to teach what they can during that time. But every chance when we get to learn at each other's language, we must just try to do that because there's a lot to learn and we must be willing to learn as well because I think what English speakers were able to achieve is that they made English look cool. You know, it's an
yeah,
international language, just like any other international languages. There's French and whatever, Italian, Spanish, but it's always cool to speak English and it sounds easy. But when you look at these other languages that we speak, they are actually learnable as well. So we must just be okay with that. We must make it cool to speak our own languages. We must try. I was speaking to someone from Mozambique the other day. I was every now and then we share. I'm teaching my friends from Mauritius how to speak Ndebele, not just Zulu because Zulu is famous in South Africa. Everyone speaks Zulu. I was like, we must learn to speak Ndebele. So we even did
yeah,
some cultural exchange where they came and then I introduced them to my culture and languages. I was like, this is how you greet and all that. And they're teaching me Creole as well. You know? So it's very important that all of us must partake in these things. It shouldn't be a one-sided thing. Because those people, whoever that if we say Mond, teach us everything, we're gonna exhaust Mond, and we still need Mond's energy. So we must not
yeah.
exhaust him as well. Yes.
Yeah. So, Mont, do you think there's a responsibility for African creators to speak on social issues, or is personal expression enough in the face of injustice? Are we doing
No,
enough?
I think there's a huge responsibility for creators to speak on social issues. Like we have a platform, we have a voice, and it's very important for you to
Yeah,
speak up against any injustices that happen in society. And that's how we can even spread more messages, because we want to spread highlight people's stories or give platform to people who have been silenced. So it's so important for us to be able to speak on social issues, because
In that
it
way.
allows it
Yeah.
allows us to really kind of impact society and allow people to grow and understand one another and be able to kind of propagate certain messages that are important in society. And we need that. We need people to speak up, because a lot of people are often very silenced, and in a digital age you cannot be quiet, you cannot be voiceless. It's important for you to be able to speak up, and I think it's important to engage that.
Yeah. Forms or digital spaces to educate. Yeah. Tumi from Pretoria here. How can young people make sure their digital identities don't erase their community histories, especially when algorithms, oh, excuse me, they favor Western um, aesthetics?
Can I jump
So,
in?
how can people make sure their digital identities don't erase their community history, especially when algorithms favor Western aesthetics? Yeah, yo, jump in, Mike.
Um, um, Firstly, uh, I think we need to be intentional about learning about the digital space and just technology in general, right? We we need
Mm-hmm.
to create different waves of creators. You know, we shouldn't be just consumers. As long as we are still consumers of the digital space, we always not going to have a say. But once we start having our own programmers, once we start having our own innovators, now we are in both sides. You know, then that means in future or in the near future, we're going to have young people that also are going to be creating these spaces. We need our own Mark Zuckerbergs, because we are
Yeah.
intelligence. Like that one, you make no mistake about it. Africans are intelligent, they are smart. We also need to tap into that space first. So, and also we need to educate more young people to understand how these algorithms work, right? And I can tell you this,
Mm-hmm.
they can be as advanced and as fancy as they are, but a lot of them, they want traffic or they want that like data, you know. So it's more like advertising. If
Yeah.
we consume a certain content and they see that all these algorithms, they see that our content are getting a lot of traffic, a lot of data and following,
Attention.
they will be forced to come into this side. They will be forced to allow our perspective, because it's what is selling. It's like on TikTok. TikTok, when they set it up in a way, the TikTok in general or your YouTube in general, they are looking for users and consumers. So if they see that a lot of people are consuming comedy, in one way or the other, they're going to be forced to pay more attention into comedy. They're going to be forced to paying attention into art. We can actually do that if we support our own stories. If there's an African creator, we support that. They're gonna be forced. They want the marketing. They want the marketing
Mm-hmm.
more than they want their own perspective or whatever it is that they want to favor. So
Narratives. Yeah.
exactly. So they won't be able to erase that history if they see that it has a lot of following.
That's so true. That's so true. Do you have any more questions? I don't think we have any more questions. Yeah, I think that's just about it. Guys, thank you. Thank you for these layered and bold reflections. The digital age does not dilute our identity. It actually gives us new tools to reclaim it. So let's continue that work, guys. Let's continue to educate. Any last closing sentiments from you guys?
No, thank you. I
On.
really just wanted to say thank you for Thank you for an insightful conversation. I really enjoyed it. I think we need to start spreading such messages and start sharing such knowledge that we have, and engaging one another, because that's how we can make the world a better place. I think when we have dialogues and conversations like this, and discourses like this, we're able to kind of inspire, motivate, and encourage people to be able to be better and to
And
grow and
educate.
to,
And educate.
yeah, and educate. Like, that's definitely true. So thank you so much for this conversation.
Mike,
Also on my side, thank you so much.
closing remarks.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate this opportunity. So every now and then when there's that opportunity just to share your opinion, I really don't take it lightly. I think it is important that every now and then we work and we collaborate with each other so that we really try to conscientize young people and share what we believe can really assist them. We
Mhm.
might not assist everyone, but whatever work that we put out there, trust me, it's not going to go to waste. A lot of young people, I think, are going to watch this and they're really going to learn something. Like I said again, it's not going to be everything, but it's important that we keep having these
Mhm.
discussions. This actually is the first step of getting that African narrative or that African stories that we're talking about. This is the first step. We need to keep having this, and the more young people support programs like this, that's when actually the algorithm is gonna change. It's gonna be readjusted because whether we like it or not, or they like it or not, it was created by a human being. So if they see that young people are consuming this, definitely algorithms are going to follow what we are doing. Let's just keep pushing. Let's keep changing each other's lives. Let's allow each other to to learn about one another. If there's something that maybe I am not doing right, let's not be afraid to call each other into order and say, hey, Mike, now you're no longer doing this
Mhm.
right. And then we have that discussion. And then if there's a need to apologize, let's do that. You're not going to die from apologizing and really learning from that experience. So for me, I would say let's just keep being online. Let's share our stories. There's a lot that we can do. A lot of issues that we're having in our different communities can be solved through this digital space, or the lead of those solutions are actually in this space. So thank you so much for having me. Thank you, Mont. Also, it was really a great pleasure to meet you. I've learned a lot just from
Yeah,
in this session. Thank you so much.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate it.
Same. Thank you.
yeah. Thank you, guys. Thank you. And in closing, I just want to say, if you believe and I believe, then Africa will be saved. Thanks, guys.